In tonight's pre-election segment, we turn to the race for state representative in the 14th Suffolk District, currently represented by Angelo Scaccia. The district includes parts of Roslindale and West Roxbury and most of Hyde Park, including Reedville. Our guest is one of the challengers in the Democratic primary on September 4th. We'd like to welcome Virak Uy. Thank you very much for being with us, Virak.
Thank you, Chris.
Virak, first of all, tell me about your background in the district.
So I'm a longtime resident of Hyde Park. I grew up in Hyde Park. I went to Hyde Park High School. So I've been there for over 30 years. I love that area. Both my parents and I bought our houses there. So I'm currently at 119 Warren Ave, which is near the Fairmont area.
You've been a teacher and now you're, I understand, an administrator. What kind of work are you doing?
Yes, so I'm currently the director of the Asian American Student Advancement program at Middlesex Community College. So my job is to increase retention and graduation rate. And yeah, I've been teaching in the Boston Public School for over 8 years, and you know, I enjoyed every minute of it, and it's a big part of the reason why I'm running, because the education issues that I want to be able to advocate for adequate funding for our schools. You know? So I think it's really important for our students and for our teachers and our parents.
Well, I'm sure you've been following the news about that, because a lot of people in the House of Representatives are being criticized, at least in the leadership, about really not being able to carry the ball further on increasing education funding. So what would you have done if you were in the middle of that?
Well, I feel like this is where I stand out and makes me different from any other candidates because of my experience as a former Boston public school teacher. I know what it takes to serve our students, serve our constituents from an educational standpoint. I think we do need more funding for our public schools, especially in order to increase, the number of nurses, guidance counselor, also just our personal counseling. And I applaud the mayor for increasing the Boston Public School budget, but I think it's long overdue because our students have a lot of challenges, not just academic preparedness, but also social, emotional issues. And I think it's my hope that we can continue to look at our foundational budget process and looking at the number of enrollment and the demographic of our students and make decisions based on the needs of our constituents, our parents and our students.
Well, certainly the state Senate has been looking at that budget for a while, and there was hope that some money would come from the Millionaires Tax. We're going to have a big vote on it. It was going to be very popular, and now it's not going to be on the ballot. So where are you going to get the money now?
Yeah, I'm a proponent of that, proposal, that tax bill. I believe that, the wealthy earners, $1 million and more, I think they benefit a great deal from our community, and I think it's only fair that they pay their fair share of taxes to help us, those are in the middle class and low income, to share the burden of tax, just because we do need a lot of those taxes to go and to provide opportunities for our education, transportation, and other social services.
In Boston, of course, we're also getting maybe a bit more than in the past, some money from educational institutions, hospitals. There's a campaign to increase that even more. What would you like to do about that, even though you'd be doing it as a state legislator?
Yeah, no, I would definitely advocate and push for that. I think, all these academic medical center or AMCs that's benefit from our community for years, those nonprofit educational institutions like BC, BU, all these Harvard, all these big hospitals. And so I would like to see that we get them to pay their fair share of the tax so that we can, again, get funding for our social service, for our schools, for our infrastructure, and for our transportations. because they've been able to get away with, I think 49% of Massachusetts or even Boston land are untaxable. So I think, for the amount of profit or money that they generate, we can definitely get some support and tax revenue from that.
Any transportation improvements that you'd like to see in the district?
I would love to see improvements for the Orange Line and the Red Line. I think it's long overdue. I think in terms of the condition of the Orange Line. So, yeah.
And what about affordability for the Fairmount Indigo Line? I mean, it's pretty good close to where you live, but
Yeah.
in Reedville, they say, gee, we're paying a bit more, aren't we?
Yeah, I definitely, we need to make that fair because there are a lot more people living in that area that could definitely need support and benefit from, affordable transportation fares,
I do have to ask you about one thing that was at least controversial up to this point, and this was a plan for a pretty large housing development near the Reedville commuter rail station. The developers have scaled it down a bit. The big buildings aren't going to be as tall. Do you think it's good enough to go along with right now?
I believe in that, doing urban development the right way, a good mixture of development that would improve community building, right? Not just buildings going up where it prevent people from coming together. I want to create and support development opportunities for developers where it create that sense of community versus dividing us. So, that area, it's great. I think it's because of traffic and because of traffic congestion. I think it's a good opportunity for people to live and work in Boston in that area because, I maybe we could reduce the number of units, but I think there needs to be some percentage of affordable housing for people as well, a good mixture. But, those who are against it, I think they're a little bit uncomfortable with change, and that's fine. I think most of us are uncomfortable with change, but I think it's a good opportunity for Hyde Park, and it's definitely not going to be Manhattanization of that area. I think it's a good opportunity for people to move in that area and help contribute to the community, whether it's culturally or economically.
Well, another issue that is also somewhat controversial among the candidates in this race is whether there should be a place where people can let their dogs run off-leash at the edge of the Stony Brook Reservation around the Thompson Center. What's your take on that?
So my thoughts on that, I'm a big supporter of a mixed usage in that area as well, because I think that it's big enough to have a place for the dogs to run around and for dog owners to, because in the city in Hyde Park and in Roslindale, there's hardly any space for that, and so I definitely support that. And so yeah, it could be a picnic area, and also, like I said, it's a mixed-use area where we can beautify that space.
Recently, I was asking the candidates in this race how they would have voted on the measure to repeal the archaic law that criminalizes abortion in Massachusetts that was recently passed and signed by the governor. If you had been there soon enough to do that, well, which way would you have gone?
I believe in a woman's choice, a decision to make their own choice about what to do with their body. So I support the legislation to repeal so that there is clear voice and support for women, and especially with the Supreme Court, the unpredictability of where he would go with that issue. So I support the current efforts to do that.
I also want to ask you about your thoughts on public safety. One of the things you said in your website is you'd like to see a more proactive approach. In your district, what do you think that would mean?
I think, I think our district deserves a state representative that's engaged, that comes with new ideas, and I feel like our community is a little bit stagnant. I think, at the end of the day, where we live and work has a big impact on our health and our happiness. So I believe that Hyde Park could be better, Roslindale could be better, West Roxbury could be better in terms of improving our main streets, in terms of business development, restaurants, and transportation. So I want to be able to, come from work, going to my neighborhood, and feel great about where I live. And I think a lot of people are feeling like there's a lot of improvement in that area in order to make people feel that way. So
Thank you very much for being with us.
So.
Virak Uy, a candidate for state representative in the 14th Suffolk District.